Here we go. Focus. Speed. I am speed.
We will never sleep, cause sleep is for the weak. That we will never rest, so we're all fucking dead.
No, sir, man. I don't like that crap. I'm a rocker, dude, through and through. Here's my favorite bands. AC/DC, Van Halen, not Van Hagar, Skinner, Def Leppard.
All right. We're on in 5 minutes.
We're headlining. We shouldn't be going on until at least 11.
It's the prom. It's over at 11.
Hey guys, what the heck is going on? My name is Sam Cox and this is the IMG podcast. Thank y'all so much for tuning in today. Today I got to sit down with Miss Holly Beth. If you guys aren't familiar with Holly, I would highly recommend checking her out. I will link her stuff down below so that you guys can give her a listen. We go back a few years with Holly. I want to say that we first met her around 2018 or so, and over the last 4 or 5 years, Raglan and Holly have both kind of run around in the same circles, and it's been really cool to see the success that we have. We kind of catch up on the old days, and then she gives us a quick run through of the last year and a half, 2 years of her career. It's been really awesome to see everything cool that she's been doing, and she fills us in on buying a van, joining the Red 11 team, getting to work with people like Taylor Kimball and Koe Wetzel and stuff like that. And then she gives us some advice to take of hers and some advice to not take. So that's pretty cool. She gives us the rundown of being a front woman of a band, or being the quote unquote boss. Sometimes when you're the boss, you have to be the friend, and then sometimes you have to be the person in charge. So that's all, kind of hard sometimes. And we talk about crossing that bridge between being a artist that's gigging, quote unquote, to an artist that is trying to, start playing headlining ticketed shows in certain markets. As we all know, that can be very scary. So we kind of talk about that for a little bit. We talk about being a female in the music industry, and then there's just a lot of small talk that goes on between all that stuff. We try to keep the train on the tracks. Like, I get off topic sometimes on this podcast because I get to talk to a lot of my friends, and sometimes I forget we're recording. So anyway, hopefully you guys like this one. We had a really good time, and I'm really glad that I got to sit and chat with Holly for about an hour or so. If you guys want to support the podcast, I'm going to link that down below as well. There isn't a Patreon or anything specifically for this podcast, but I'm going to link Raglan's Patreon and Raglan's website where you guys can go buy merch and all that stuff down below, because it all goes to the same place. So our Patreon is it's got different tiers and stuff, but there's a poor person's tier on there. If you guys are broke musicians like us, there's like a $3 a month or bigger or whatever. But if you guys like this podcast enough, or Raglan enough to support us, there's a way that you can do that down below. And without any further ado, here we go.
How's Autumn doing?
She's good. She's doing something up at the school right now. Her childhood best friend. We're back in Pryor now, which is like our hometown. So her childhood best friend is a teacher there, where they both went to junior high at. It's kind of weird, like full circle thing. And and so they kind of roped her into doing a after school program like for music up there. And so she's been kind of like, figuring out, I don't know if she wants to do it or not. I think she's probably going to do it up until Thanksgiving. That's kind of what we're doing. I think up until Thanksgiving, we're going to stay busy and then kind of just hide out, I think, for 3 or 4 months or whatever. And just,
for sure. Yeah.
We did all this with one kid. We just got one kiddo, like adding another one. So we're like, I don't know.
Prepare for another. Yeah.
I know. This is the crib behind me. I don't know if you can see that, but Autumn, or that pack and play or whatever the hell it's called. But yeah, shit's crazy, man. So
congrats though.
So Holly and I go way, way, way back. So how you been? You been all right?
Yeah, I've been good. We've had a little bit of time off. I've just kind of played acoustic stuff, but we're getting busier, and we just bought a van. And
I saw that. Yeah. So tell me about the process of buying that. How'd that go?
Well, it actually was pretty easy, honestly. We've been trying. Well, the actual process of buying the van was easy, but we've been looking probably since January of this year, and but every time one gets posted anywhere, it's gone within 24 or 12 hours. Like, it's so quick. Right. And this one actually was posted like the night before. And then we literally showed up that next morning at the place when it opened, and we were like, hey, we want to look at it. And they would like not haggle on the price at all, because they were like, somebody else has been blowing up our phones and they are offering.
No, they haven't. They dude. Salesmen just try to bullshit people, man. Yeah. And so, like, as a musician, like, what do you know what I mean? Your hands are tied too. You can't call them out of their bluff because somebody else will buy it. So
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah. We see it time and time again. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was what it was, but at the end of the day, we needed it. It's still, there was a couple of different things wrong with it that like were minor, but like they needed to be fixed before we went on the road. And so it's still in the shop, but
It
it'll be
looked
done.
nice. It looked like brand new, like in the photos.
Well, it had been painted.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
how many miles it got on it?
A lot. It has like 176,000.
Oh, that's nothing. What was it? Was it a Chevy or was it a Econoline?
It's a Chevy Express, so it should go for hopefully like 300,000. Yeah, we should be fine. At least get another year out of it.
Yeah. What were you guys in before that? Just SUVs and stuff.
2002 Chevy Tahoe.
God, there you go. Yeah.
Except that Chevy Tahoe was actually really nice. Like it literally, when we got it, it had 98,000 miles on it. It was 2002. It had only really been driven like around. My parents, or my mom and stepdad, they had bought a house last summer, and the man that they bought it from, he ended up going to a nursing home after he like sold that house, and then he had that Tahoe. Well, he ended up passing away in January of this year, and his kids were just gonna like go trade in that Tahoe, and he literally offered it to us for like $3,000. So
yeah, you can't turn that up.
No, you have 98,000 miles on it. I was like,
yeah. Was that three rows? 3 rows?
Yeah, it has like it's just the 2 seats up front and then like 3 like a bench kind of deal, and then it's got like the back bench, and I was the only one really that could fit in the back bench, but I could lay down completely in it. So.
Did you force some guys to drive all the time? Are you the person that likes to drive?
I do drive. I will say a big thing with us is like we travel at night. Like we'll drive like halfway to the next town the next night, or drive to the next town because we're like, oh, we want to sleep in. And usually because I'm a night owl, I will always take like first shift or drive through the night, and I'll drive as long as my eyes will allow me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're like trying to wake somebody else up in the van. And you're just like, hey, who else wants to drive? And everybody pretends not to hear you.
Yeah. 100%. They're like, oh, I'm too tired.
It's crazy how many miles you can put on like an SUV before.
It's crazy.
Yeah. How many miles does it have on it now? Or like the Tahoe?
That's what I was about to tell you. We posted it the other day. It has 126. So about almost 30,000 miles in a little bit more than 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it was like February.
For us Okies, man, it's like, especially when we spend most of our time, like, or at least a lot of our dates, like down in Texas, like it's like, I think from Durant, like, which is like, the first town back into Texas, or Ardmore to where we're at in Pryor, is always, that's like 200 something miles, I think, just to, you know what I mean? When we get to Oklahoma, we're still like, like 3.5 hours out. So it's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. I was literally having that conversation with somebody the other day, that another Oklahoma artist that's done it a lot. And they, we're like, Texans don't understand. We have another 4+ hours alone just driving 35 to get into the state of Texas. Like, no one understands that unless you're from Oklahoma. So, like,
all the Kansas and Nebraska artists like trying to get down here too and stuff. Like it's even worse for them, man. But you were living in where were you living at for a while? Was it like Midlothian or
Waxahachie?
Waxahachie, yeah. What moved you down there? And you're back in Mustang?
Yeah, I'm back in Mustang now. Yeah. Okay. So I had always really wanted to go to Texas after I graduated college, but I ended up dating a boy from Texas for a couple years, and it just made sense at the time, and I moved down there. He's born and raised in Waxahachie, and so I moved down there, and I was there for just shy of 3 years, and I really like Waxahachie. It's a great area. I love that like Midlothian, Mansfield area. Like it's cool. So there's times I miss HEB so much.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah,
it's the best grocery store on the planet.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, we need to get them up in Oklahoma, but it's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. We played a Green Hall back in like March, and I was randomly, my mom and stepdad started talking to somebody. They came to the show, and he ended up being like a district area, I don't know, manager of
for HEB
down there. Yeah,
Nice.
and I just started talking about how much I loved it and everything, and I said that to him. I was like, "So when are you coming to Oklahoma?" And he was like, "Never. It's not happening." I was like, "Oh, okay, I love that for
Yeah, I
us."
don't have any
But
reason to. And help me remember everything that you remember about this. So the other day, me and Autumn were talking about, because I told her I was going to have you on the podcast, and we were talking about the I always call like the Texas Music Picker Days, because back when TMP was like kind of like breaking artists back in the day, you know what I mean, and just like really putting people on the map. And their podcasts and their playlists and their songwriter events and stuff was really doing really well. And not that they're not still, but I think Chris is very tied up in artist management or whatever he's doing now, which is super cool. I mean, he's definitely moving up in the world. But we were talking about how the songwriters event that you and Autumn were both a part of, how I think that was the year that was like the class of the new age of musicians, like the next round of people. Like I think it was you and Autumn, and I want to say Jacob Stelly was also in that songwriter group. I don't know if you remember that or not. And then
I
Ben
actually
Kadlicek, and then a few other
I think
people.
it was not Jacob Stelly. They honestly, when I first met them, they
Yeah, we were trying
confused
to
me
put it
with
all
a lookalike.
together.
You know who it was? It was I think it was Tyler Dudley, which is joint
Oh
custody.
yes, yeah.
That's who it was.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I remember that now. Yes. Yeah. Because that was before joint custody.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
Yes.
so. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And then Lucas Jagno was the one that
Yes.
ended up winning that. Yeah, God.
Yeah. So yeah, you, Autumn, Tyler Dudley, Lucas, Ben Kadlicek, and there was and Natalie Rose. There was like a whole bunch of artists that are now like doing really well for themselves, and
Yeah.
we were talking about that the other day, where it's like, oh, we couldn't remember who all was in that top. I think that, what did they pick, like 25 or 30 people to come
Yeah,
for that
and
weekend?
honestly, it was so, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, I hadn't even thought about. I for sure obviously remember Autumn because I think that's where I met you guys was
Yeah.
through that whole deal, and then Lucas for sure. But if I remember, I think it was Tyler Dudley, and then I really don't know other than that. If
Yeah.
I'm being well, and I know Ben Kalachek, but I've known him for years too. But I don't really. I hate saying that, but there was so many. It was years ago. That was
That
like,
was so long ago. Yeah. We
well,
were
what
all,
year was that? Like
I think that
2018?
was 2018. Yeah. I think so.
Pre-pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, and you know what? And I look back on stuff like that, and I'm just like that was, we were babies, but we were all still like, getting our foot in the door. And no, those are some good times. I remember because Paul still runs a venue up in Durant, Oklahoma, and he's like, "Hey, I manage another Okie artist. You need to come meet her." And then I was like, hey, and I think like I remember it's kind of weird the first time you and Autumn like looked at each other, and you guys looked at each other and you're like, I think we'd be friends, but I'm not sure.
Probably. For sure.
Yeah. And fast forward to now where we're at today, and we're really glad to call you a friend, and you've been like out there killing it. And speaking of that, so let's talk about the whole Red 11 thing that you got. When was that? You signed? Was it earlier this year, or was it last year, or
No, it was
when did that all
it was
happen?
last year. It was
Okay.
it was like May of last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how did that all happen? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? I know that a lot of those deals happening, or a lot of recommendations happening, or I'm sure they heard your name like 20 million times before they reached out to you, because it's not just to hear your name once and then so how'd the whole thing happen?
So for me, I really just kind of wanted to start playing with like Giovanni and Koe West, artists that like I looked up to, but I knew my music was similar to.
Right.
And so I started just emailing Jeff directly about shows. And I got lucky, honestly. Jeff emailed me back. And I know that is sometimes, especially when I first signed with them, people are like, well, you're lucky they wouldn't even email me back. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess maybe it was just the right time, but like he emailed me back and he started putting me on some shows, and it was maybe before I'd even played any shows with them. He was like, hey, can we hop on a call? And he just asked me what I had going and like what, music wise, what I had going to. And I kind of explained everything, and he was like, well, let's stay in touch. And I was like, okay, perfect. And that was like August, September of 2020, actually.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So this is like everybody's still full on pandemic. He's working at home, like, and so maybe it was I just got lucky because he kind of had time on his hands,
Right.
and so, but we obviously, at the end of the pandemic, they weren't bringing anybody else on because nobody knew what was happening with the world. And so we kind of went back and forth, and right after the first of the year, into 2021, he gave me a call and he was like, listen, let's just see what goes, like what happens. Like, let's see how this goes. And I just want to keep on like putting you on shows with our artists, and then, we'll see what happens. And then maybe 3 weeks before I actually had the contract in hand, he called me and he was like, I promise before the end of the year, we will send you a contract, but like, I'm still on a freeze. I can't hire anybody right now onto Red 11 because, just, we don't know where the world is going still. And
they were going through a lot of changes themselves too, I think, from what I know,
Yeah, I think they came just a hair bit after all this started, but I think it was starting to kind of happen. So then literally, like I said, like 3 weeks later, he called me one day, and really what it was I had the rough track of Psycho and I had sent it to him, and within 24 hours, he called me and offered me the contract and was like,
that's pretty cool.
He was like, I showed it to John, which John Folk is the head guy at Red 11 and owner. And he was like, I showed it to John, and John was like, well, what are you waiting for? Go sign her. And he was like, well, I've been waiting on you. Like, I don't, we couldn't hire her. And he was like, well, if that's your girl, then like, go get her, whatever. So it worked out.
So there is a weird misconception, and help me put this into Holly's words. There's a weird misconception on when people see somebody like you or somebody else get signed to a distribution or a management or a booking deal, that they think that like they made it and it's just like boom, we're there. So I imagine once Red 11 signs you, you go from working to working 10 times as hard now, just because of and talk about what all they've done for you, and talk about the amount of work that has multiplied, I would think, since you've signed with them. And what has all that been like?
Beforehand, obviously I was just doing it myself. I didn't really have management. I still don't have management. I still do that in-house, but there was like a level of, I was working a lot on stuff of just, trying to get shows. But I remember very vividly the day that I signed the contract. It was a couple weeks later after I got it. And I called him. I said, hey, I just emailed it to you. And he goes, the work starts now. And my stepdad, my mom, and my dad had said that for years to me of like, okay, your goal is here for booking or management or whatever, but your work starts then.
Right.
And, he made a comment. I had know at one point saying that where my career was at, like everybody's kind of on a 5-year plan where you're really doing good at that year 5, or hopefully you're doing good at that 5. He was like, and right now you're only in year 1. But here I am where I was like really in year 4 or 5.
Right.
But I was playing like 3-hour shows, whatever. So I'm still only, like in year 2 of that. And not saying that it happens like that for everybody, but that's kind of the goal, I guess. And so anyways, just advancing the shows, I try to do it at the beginning of the month, but every week, just talking to the venues. I still do all that with myself. I don't have a tour manager. So
if I say you are your tour manager, then okay.
Yeah. I am starting to bring one on the road, but she's just kind of part-time, and she's learning as I'm, kind of learning how to let go of some control, I guess.
No way. That's a common thing. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's just one of those deals. But yeah, sending emails back and forth, and then I confirm all of our shows, and so it's like a level of that, of figuring out what works and what doesn't, and then taking care of my band, getting, obviously, it's just, but like the level of shows too that we're playing now versus what I used to, there's a level of work on the back end of just the show that has to go into. I mean, you guys understand that, but it's like everything just, it kind of takes you up another notch.
from being an opening act for on our side of it, it's like obviously the money's a lot less, and you're almost having to work like harder than the headlining band, if that makes any sense. Like in some different aspects, like talk about like just the grind of an opening band, like some behind the scenes that people may not know.
For sure. We were talking about the Tahoe. That alone, is just the sleep. I mean, if you're traveling overnight or whatever, you don't get a hotel or whatever. But like, I could go on and on about a soapbox about opening versus headliners, because as a headliner, you're getting hotels, you're getting food, you're getting all this stuff on your rider, you're getting the most money at the end of the night. And as an opener, you're paying your dues, but you're not getting hotels, you're not getting your rider, you're not getting fed, you're getting way less money.
You're getting $250 and maybe a hotel, right?
Maybe, on a good night. I'm like right. So happy if we get a hotel. Yeah, for sure. And so it's one of those things like, what else are you supposed to do though at the same time, is because your job is to go in and make fans of the headliners fans and get everybody excited. So it's like everybody's went through it, so it's kind of like I'm crying to people that are like, I was there too, but like it's definitely hard, but the shows are worth it. That's at the end of the night when we have a badass show, and even when we're starting to play with people's the same headliners, and we show up to shows and they're like, well, we saw you at so and so with them, and then they're singing the songs back to you. That's worth it. That's
the whole thing. Yeah. I've got a I'll say friend. It's a cousin of mine, lives in Helotes, and she texted me in autumn probably like 6 months ago, because I guess you were playing down there, and she was like, have you ever heard of this Holly girl? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you're late to the party right now, because she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I want to say, I don't know if she ever went back to go see you at Cheatham Street or Blue Bonnet or wherever you guys were playing, but she said that she was going to go see you guys again. And
I think it was Cheatham Street. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of being an opening act, really, is, you've got, 45 minutes or whatever to win over the headliners fans. And sadly, like if you do it right, like the majority of your money is going to come from merch, and it sucks and it's such a grind, but it's like that is the next step up from playing 3-hour gigs. And you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like it's a grind. And
if I would have had it to do over, like if I could just completely start over, even at like the 3-hour bar gigs, and I hope one day that I can take somebody under my wing and start them there and tell them this. Because at the time when I was playing those 3-hour bar gigs, I was still working a full-time job. And, sometimes those like 3-hour bar gigs where people are just tipping you can come home with $700 at the end of the night, where it's just acoustic money. I wish somebody would have told me, save all this money that you made. Because when you go to these $250 full band, 45-minute shows, 5.5 hours away from home, you're going to need that money.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish it, but it is what it is. Like, we're all here.
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like, just from the outside, because Autumn and I have watched you for a few years now, and I really feel like Red 11 has really taken your career to like a whole nother level, and really just kind of like putting you in front of a whole different crowd. And that's something that you can only really do, with a booking agency, because, they're trying to grow you as an artist too. So if they have, I keep using Giovanni, but I know you play with him a lot, but if they need an opener for him, they're like, well, let's just throw Holly on, because if Holly doesn't have a show this day, and so we're trying to build her anyway. So talk about like your, I guess, comparison in this whole music scene. Cause I was on the phone with your agent, Jeff. Can I talk about him on here? Okay. He's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy. I'll say this. We've been trying to get some shows going with you in Autumn, some acoustic runs or something for a while. And Jeff is a really big advocate for females in this industry. And it's really refreshing to see that whenever you have like an agency like Red 11 that, or any of them that have, like two females or three females or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, in the way that he talked on the phone and the way that I think he's really cool. I think that
He's been great for me. Honestly, that's, when I signed with Red 11, a big thing with me was like, I wanted to make sure that I was going to have people in my corner that fought for me for the way that I felt like I deserved to be fought for. And as in that sense, of like, hey, I do have something different to offer. And that's just been a thing with me is like, I know that my stuff is completely different than a lot. And it's showing in some different ways just because it's been a little harder to catch wind, and I say that and some people are like, but you're like doing, and I'm like, yeah, I understand, but I think there's always room for improvement, in my head too. And so it's like, but yeah, I think it's just, Jeff has been great. Honestly, I've still never even met the guy in person. I finally get to, we're playing Nashville in December.
Really?
So I get to, yeah, the whole Red 11 crew, I think, is going to come out. And so I'm finally going to get to like see them, and they'll get to see us because they've never watched us full band either. Like they've just seen like videos and stuff like that. And so I'm very excited, but he has been the biggest advocate for me. And I've heard from multiple different people, like he fights for you. Like
he really does. He really does. Yeah. Okay. So talk about the recent harmony thing that you did on the new Koe Wetzel record. And then I'm going to pick your brain on the business side of everything that you're doing. So tell me how the whole thing went down. Did Taylor, was he just like, hey, you want to sing this? Or was he mixing it when you walked in and you're like, oh, I could do that? Or like, because you hear different stories every time somebody gets a harmony part, on there.
So it's actually kind of a cool, I got a text from Kimball from Taylor, my producer, but he also produces for Koe, one day, and he was like, hey, do you want to sing harmonies on some of Koe's songs? And I ended up doing 3, and I was just like, well, yeah. And so when I went in to do them, he told me the full story, and actually he was cutting vocals with Koe at the time, and they were working on harmonies, and he was with Koe, and he texted me, and Koe couldn't hit some of the notes that were like were the harmony notes. It just like wasn't working. And he goes, can we get a female to do these harmonies? And Kimball was like, well, yeah, if you want. And he goes, and Koe said, let's get Holly Beth.
There you go.
And so I thought that was cool just because I was like, well, and Kimball would have suggested me anyways, just because he pushes for me too. But it was cool that he said it. And I was like, all right.
There you go. Do you have any, is there talks of you doing any shows with him in the future, or is there anything going on?
I'm trying. I'm really trying, but I'll say I understand where people are coming. I don't get emails back. So yeah. But I've tried.
Yeah. It's one of those things. When you have somebody that big, it's kind of just like, everybody wants. Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about a lot of the business stuff that I want to get into. I wanted to kind of just pick your brain about like the business aspect of being a front woman of a band versus like being in a band. Holly is the CEO of Holly Beth Enterprises, or I'm just kidding, whatever you LLC. Yeah. So what is that like, being a front person or being the boss versus like being in a band? Or, I don't know if you've ever been a hired gun for anybody, but what is all that like? I'm sure there's bittersweet parts about having to be the boss, and
the biggest thing that's hard for me, which I think anybody that has ever been a boss of anything will fully agree, this is the worst part of it, is just having to be the boss sometimes and having to be the bad guy. I absolutely hate hurting people's feelings or letting people down, or just anybody just being disappointed in any way, shape, or form, I guess. And sometimes there's conversations that have to be had that are going to hurt people's feelings, but it's like, I literally have to have this to make whatever, this oiled machine keep going, and so it's like, I was going to say well-oiled machine, but I don't know that it's a well-oiled machine.
We're in a tight ship over here.
Yeah. That's the hardest part about it versus being, I've always, just, I guess, been like the front of it, but I've never been like in the actual like band part of it, but that would be the biggest thing for me that I was about to say I can't wait to like have other people to help me make decisions, but at the end of the day, I'm too much of a control freak. I still think I will. And that's also another thing that having to like let go of some areas and be like, you know more about that than I do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you. That's been, I've learned so much though, like over time. Like,
Yeah.
I used to be a lot better about, or easier to let people just like, here, if you offer whatever. And I kind of got burned really bad in a kid scenario, and I had to learn that, like, okay, and that kind of hurt too, just because it was like, okay, now I got to take control back, and but it was equipment, really, is what it was, and I ended up, I own everything now,
There you
other
go.
than like
There
my
you go.
guys'
Yeah.
instruments, but it was one of those situations like I had to learn that, and
Mhm.
so, but yeah, I think that's the biggest. Other than that, I don't do very well with people like being like,
Telling
oh.
you what to do.
Yeah, I guess I authority
Yeah.
figures, and so I guess I like being my own boss, if you
Yeah.
will. But
Yeah.
I do sometimes though, like for example, we were playing somewhere and we had a little disagreement during sound check, and I went up to the our talk back, and I talked into it like this, and I kind of said some mean things, and I literally cried about 30 minutes later to my band, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I was so mean. Not good at that.
You and Autumn, except for she won't cry. I was honestly surprised to hear that you didn't have a bigger team, not because that for any bad reason, but I just figured you'd at least have like a tour manager or somebody else, like, or a manager working with you. Part of that you said is because you um, don't want to like let go of it, or you like actively seeking, those people, or like, how's that going?
So for me, the manager side of it, I'm at a place now where, so I signed like a record deal with my producer, Taylor Kimball.
Okay.
He started a record label called Sour Sonics, and he kind of acts as my standing manager. Like everything that like is major decision for me, I talk to him about, just because I truly 110% believe in my heart he has my best interest at heart, and I just know that I can trust him. But honestly, my parents, like my mom, my stepdad, and my dad, are all great businessmen and women, and in their own different ways, and they've helped me so much, and I just feel like I get the best like manager decision making type viewpoints from that like small group of people. However, but when like a manager, when you get to a certain level, they're out like making connections for you and like
Right.
setting up things for you. For me, I'm at the point where I've talked to a couple different people that like independently do it, but still have full-time jobs, or, and they have a couple different artists, and I'm not going to name names, but like for me personally, I don't feel like it's worth giving up that money out where I'm at the moment, when it's not for an established company, like Red 11 with booking, and so there's a couple different, management companies that we've kind of been speaking with recently. That
What's funny is the person that you were talking about, like this specific person. I think one person came to mind, and I'm wondering if we'll have to talk about it here in a second, but actually, here, I can edit this out. Is it? Oh, okay, all right.
And I don't know. It just never felt right for me,
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of artists that are very high up that still do their own management, and it's just, you get all the say, and you don't have to pay somebody, 10% or, whatever to like,
for sure.
And if you have people that can help you out with the connections, like if you need help with distribution or merch or finding a record promoter or, whatever you're doing, I mean, if you can find those things through the connections that you have, that's really what a manager does, is it kind of like puts together the artist and all the connections that they've made, and sometimes it's a radio station, sometimes it's somebody that curates a Spotify playlist or whatever. But if you know people that can like do those things for you, you don't necessarily have to do it. But I was just surprised to hear that you didn't have like that or a tour manager, because I figured like you would at least have like a team or something. You like doing the merch by yourself, or you just,
Yeah, merch is difficult, definitely, like at shows, but at shows I will, if I don't have somebody, for bigger shows, I bring on a tour manager, and I have them, go run merch or whatever. And it's my friend, her name is Ashley Thompson, and she's ran merch for a lot of different people. She was on the road with Tristan Moretz for a long time, but now she's getting into the TM and kind of sound world. And I just respect her. she wants to work and she's a badass female. And
Right.
like, that's my biggest thing is like, I saw Maren Morris put this in the best words possible, is the only way that I know how to empower women on the road is by employing them.
Mhm.
And that's me personally. Like there's not a lot of female musicians. And so my team, I want to be full of badass women.
Yeah.
And so anyways, you know, that's, you know, photographer is one of my best friends. Her name is Carly Brassel. She's that this weekend, actually, her and Ashley are going to be on the road with us. And a big part of it is
Nice.
not having the room in a vehicle. You know, now that we have the van, I can bring on, you know, whoever really now.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I just, even with TMing, like for the time being, you know, I'm still going to do advancing just because it is kind of part-time with Ashley, like on our bigger shows, you know, and smaller stuff when I just don't have the budget, you know, it's like.
And you don't need to be in a hurry to give away the money either. You know, I was just surprised that it's just like you still doing all that, which is good. You know, our first record promoter back in 28, about the time that we met you, she told us, learn how to do photography, learn how to do video editing, learn how to book, learn how to tour manage, learn how to do everything yourself so that once you bring on other people, you can tell if they're actually doing their job right because you
100%.
did it at one point, you know? So you
My
agree with that?
stepdad has told me that for years,
Yeah.
and he is a very big advocate of doing everything yourself in house. And
Mhm.
I think I've just over time gotten used to it a little bit, but I also enjoy it. That
Yeah,
sounds
right.
really, some people are like, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, well,
you're a
sorry.
nerd, Holly. Why would you want to do? No, I'm the same way. We're the same way, dude. It's like when you do everything yourself for so long, you almost like, I look around, we've got cameras and software, and, you know, I've been booking Raglan since day one. And it's just kind of like we've had people that we brought on that we tried to have do things for us for a little bit, and they didn't do it it sounds shitty and it sounds like conceited, and I hope it doesn't come off that way, but they couldn't do it as good as we could do it ourselves.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so
For sure. That does
yeah.
not sound that literally sounds reasonable. It's like, why would I pay somebody or have somebody else do this and them not do to the standard of what I want it to be?
Other than giving you the time, because sometimes you pay for, I mean, the one thing we can't get back is time, you know, and realistically, circling back to, I think there's going to come a point where Holly Beth is going to need a manager because there's going to be so many things going on at one time that you can't do everything.
And at that point,
you know,
at that point, I will, you know, I will say we've kind of had some conversations with some people lately, and it's very early stages of conversations with management that might come down the road, you know, in 6 months or so. And it's like management at a level of like, okay, yeah, I would give up the money for that because I know what they're going to do. They have giant artists on their roster. And so hopefully, you know, if something comes from that, like I'm okay with giving up that. But I also think it's all about a timing. You know, I've always heard, don't get booking, don't get management until you need it, until you can afford to give that up because you just can't do it anymore with booking.
And I'm not rushing you. I'm just saying, like,
I
know there's going to be a time when, because I mean, you're on the, you know, I'm kissing ass, but I know that you're on the train to success. And so I know there's going to come a point where you're going to need somebody, you know what I mean? And just at the end of the day, if there's anything you ever listen to me, Holly, about what I say is like, just know that there's going to come a point where you're paying for time, you know,
sure,
which I feel like is worth money, you know, at the end of the day. You know, so, but
especially with you guys, like with having a family now, like, yeah, I totally get that for sure. You know, with me, it's just me. So I got all the time.
Little Holly, Holly and Jeff just running things by themselves. Yeah. With us, it's, you know, and like you were saying, like having female employees, you know, our manager is a female, and some days we call her because we need to have merch shipped to this venue because we couldn't go pick it up, or we need her to, like, you know, book a hotel, or, you know, like, you know, whatever, you know, weird random stuff. And other days I call her because I need a therapist, you know, and she's like a 38-year-old mom, you know, and so she's like, having females, kind of going back to what you're saying, having females like as part of your crew, I feel like is you know, really something that pays off, because
I agree.
Okay, so here's one thing that I really wanted to talk about: crossing the bridge between playing not ticketed shows and ticketed shows. On top of that, the stress of playing headliner ticketed shows. And I know that I feel like everybody I know is just kind of like crossing that bridge. There's shows that we go to and I'm comfortable. Like, I know people are going to be there, but when we play our first headliner in whatever venue in Texas, I'm like, dude, I'm so fucking nervous about this show, because not because I don't think we're going to do good. It's because I'm just worried about people showing up. Have you had struggles of trying to get to where you're headlining stuff? Or has it just been pretty smooth sailing since you've just been, playing all these markets as like an opening act, or how's that gone for you?
No, definitely. We have for sure troubles with it. I think a lot of times, finding the right opener for a market too is sometimes the key to it. But first one that comes to my mind is Cheatham Street in San Marcos. We have played a night where there's 120 people there, and I make more
Which
than
is
enough.
good for Cheatham. Guess
Yeah.
it's not like a crazy huge.
No,
Everybody
yeah, I
doesn't
think
know.
maybe
Yeah.
they probably cap out at like 350 somewhere in
Yeah.
there. And then the last time we played Cheatham, there was less than 20 people in the room. And, I will be very transparent right now and tell you I took away $96 that night from that show. It sucks. Yeah. It does. And it's hard not to base your worth as an artist too off of those ticket sales at the end of the night. Right. And that's a head game that I don't know that I will ever be able to get out of,
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, like looking at like how many tickets are sold. Like I do that now. It's so unhealthy, but I'm just like, if there's online tickets going on and I can actually like look at it, I do it, and I shouldn't, but it's just something hard. It really is hard. It really is hard. It's just nice knowing when you're going to open up for somebody else that's already sold, 200 tickets or whatever. You're just like, okay, cool. Now we just have to worry about putting on a good show and making money and merch and that kind of stuff. But crossing that bridge is hard because, I know that, we both started out in the 3-hour gig days, and just moving up comes with a lot of pressure, and I know that, whenever you play certain places, I know, the first time that, I don't know, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the first time you maybe like headlined like Blue Light or something where you just like, man, I don't know about this.
Yes. I'm that way anytime we go into, especially a new market. And I will say most of the markets we have played ticketed shows now, like college markets. But yeah, the first time I played Blue Light, I was so nervous. I couldn't sleep that week. I could hardly eat. It was, I vividly remember, because this was only not even a year ago that we started doing that, and my guys didn't fully, they understand now, but I think that was one of the first shows. That and Cheatham Street was like one of the first shows that I was like, guys, these shows are door deals. Like we are walking away with what we make off the door. And Lubbock has been amazing for me, actually. I will say that's one of our best markets for ticketed headline shows.
That's good.
And I'm very thankful for that. And, but I know it can come and go just like that, Yeah. And so I'm very aware of that, and I'm always very grateful. We have a full weekend of headline ticketed shows coming up at the end of this month.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I'm so stressed out about it. I'm excited for the weekend, but there's pressure there, Yeah.
Right. It's just different. It's different when you go to play a festival or you go to play a support slot or something, that there's people are going to be there, and then you go out and play your own. I mean, we're the same way. Like we're playing at the Golden Light in Amarillo this weekend. And it's like, we've always done well there, but it's just kind of like, and it's not a huge room either, but it's just still kind of like, you can't hide behind a headliner or, you know what I mean? No. Or like a festival name or something. Like it's freaky. Yeah. But, crossing that bridge has been like I think the scariest thing we've done like in our career. I don't know if you like mutually felt that too, or if it's just something.
Oh, I do for sure.
We overreact about, because man, we're just always like, fuck, man. We like I'll book a headliner show, but I'll book it like 6 to 8 months out, because I'm just like, okay, cool, we've got time, and then I fuck around for 5 or 7 months or whatever, and I'm just like, man, we're playing this place next month. We really need to get down to the promo. Yeah.
I know. Same, actually. I mean, we don't book out that far, but
Yeah.
when it does get booked, I'm like, oh, I have time, and here I am. I'm like, fuck, that's 2 weeks away.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, what am I doing here? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so talk about merch. If that's cool with you. So as an opening band that has been, and I keep referring to you as an opening band only because you've been,
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Exactly. Okay. So we're, yeah.
Yeah. On the
Okay.
same page. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, you make a lot of money off of merch. So whenever you look at, let's say Holly makes $1,000, which is good for any band, really. I feel like, $1,000 at the merch table in a night. Break that down into like what goes back into having to re-up on your stuff. Break that down into how much actually you get to keep, and what advice do you have for people that need to like step up their merch game, or like what take it away.
My advice is don't take my advice.
Okay.
I'm probably the worst person on the planet to talk to about merch. I am awful. And it's not because I don't have the knowledge.
Mhm.
I know exactly what I should be doing. But I don't. And a big part of it is because I was playing those shows where we were not making any money. So I would take our money and I would use it for gas. And then at that point, I'm like, oh shit, I need $3,000 to go put in a new merch order, and I don't have it. And
Yeah.
I'm in a lot of debt.
Okay. So if there's anything that people take from this, it's
Don't do what I did.
don't do. So when you look at your merch, okay, let's say this is probably fair to say. When you look at your merch for any band, at the end of the night or at the end of a weekend, do not look at the gross sales as money in your pocket.
No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, for sure.
If anything, don't look at it as any in your pocket. If you can get away with not spending any of your merch money at all,
do it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Gracie York, her parents still are, they go to a lot of her shows with her. Not saying that in like a derogatory way, because my parents still do it too, but like her mom and me, we talk business when we see each other. Me and Gracie do too, but me and her mom, Misty, we talk about it a lot. And Gracie told me that her mom does not let her use her merch money for anything else. And I was like, your mom is smart. I was like, don't be mad at her for that. And if you can get away with not using any of that merch money, don't. It's not smart. It's a tough cycle to get out of.
Yeah.
But if you can put it all back into merch, you're gonna have the best merch in the game.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we try to do is we have a specific bank account just for merch, and we buy merch out of there, and then anything that we make gross, we just put back into there, and then we try not to touch it. And if we need to buy a hotel, or if we need to like fill up the tank, or if we just like ate shit that weekend on, on what we got paid, we kind of like dip into it. But if you can try to not touch it, I figured that you're gonna have like a better answer for me than.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna disappoint you on that one.
Okay, let's go on to a topic that you probably know a lot about. Okay, gotta redeem yourself here. Okay, so let's talk about being a female in the music industry, and we could break this down into being a female in the Texas red dirt industry. We can break this down into being a female into just in music in general. What do you think is some of the biggest differences or whatever between you and being a male in the industry that you've seen? And I know it's a really broad question, and we're trying to keep it short-ish, but just
I don't know. I have a different perspective on it, I think, than a lot of other people do. And me personally, I do think there's so many more females that are like starting to rise up, and I love it. I absolutely love it. However, I think there's so many more males. So many more males.
Yeah.
There always will be. It's just how it is in a male-dominated industry. But I honestly, a lot of people look at that in a bad way. And yes, I do agree that even 5 years ago, females were just kind of, whatever. I think it's a lot more inclusive now, partially because people feel obligated that it has to be, but also because a lot of women have showed like, hey,
Right.
I deserve to be here just as much as anybody else. But I've always looked at it I've tried not to look at it in a negative light. I've always tried to look at it in a positive light of there's so many more males than there are females. It's easier for me to be like, hey, I'm better than XYZ. And that sounds so bad, but like, here's all the reasons why. And I feel like me and other females too, we stand out more because of that, because a lot of these males, and I don't mean it in a mean way, but I mean, it's just the fact of the matter is like, they all kind of run together and they all sound and have the same look and, vibe. And I don't know. I just feel like all of us females that are kind of in the circuit right now, sorry, I could get on a soapbox, but we all
No,
just
you're
have
good.
something different to
I'm here
offer.
for it. Yeah.
We all have something different to offer. And I think it stands out easier because we're females, just, at the end of the day. But I don't know. It's such a hard.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on it?
No, what's my opinion on it? Oh man, how much time do we got? Well, I think that I will say that you are right. There are people out there that I think fight for, 50-50, whether it's a festival or the radio or Spotify or, venues booking 50% male, 50% female. I don't think that there's 50% females out there strictly for the fact that, I mean, we'll just, break it down as elementary as we can get it. A lot of females probably aren't on the road because like it's easier for like a male to be on the road if they have kids rather than a female, if that makes any sense, so the older you get, I would say there's probably, moms in their 20s and 30s, there's probably more females that did not pursue their music dream because they had kids. But in like a male sense, I think that males can be on the road while their counterpart is at home taking care of the kids, So I will say that for any other reason than just that there's probably more males on the road than there is females. So I don't think that 50-50 is ever going to be a thing. I do think that over the last few years, and I was talking to somebody else about this on another podcast, I've seen people like in every genre almost, from Koe to metal, Slipknot. I went and saw Slipknot the other day, and it was like they had 2 female fronted bands opening for them, and it was like cool, man. And it's becoming more aware that females need to be shown more light, because I really think that at the end of the day, if more females had more spotlight, then people would like females more. Like let's say somebody like Sonny Sweeney or Brie Bagwell or Autumn got as much radio play as like Cody Johnson. I think that they would like them as much because they're as familiar with them, So yeah. I think there's a lot of things that it comes down to, venues taking bigger chances on them in festivals and,
for sure.
The
way that I look at it is,
no, don't ask me my opinion because I'll go on all day. So.
the way that I look at it is, if you break it down to like the music industry just as a whole, and we go into pop world stuff that is top 40 Billboard radio, whatever, or Billboard chart radio, the biggest artists in the world are female.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, like Taylor Swift,
Ariana Grande, Queen, like,
literally Beyonce, like the biggest artists in the world are females. And so I've never quite understood why the farther down the music industry you go and the little fish in this big old pond that we're in, like us, why females were so like, whatever. And, because it just was like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But at the end of the day, when I first started, my biggest thing was I did not want to talk about it. I would talk about it if somebody brought it up to me, but what I would tell them is like, I'm going to do my thing regardless. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to keep my head down and I'm just going to show everybody.
And that's a lot of musicians' standpoint, is just to stay out of politics, which, we don't get crazy into politics, but I mean, as somebody that sells a female act on a daily basis, because I book for Raglan and I've booked for, I've managed other artists and stuff too, and booked for other artists. There's from what I've seen, ask Jeff, he'll probably be like, probably, a little different. I I think we're making progress. I would like to think that,
I think so too. I think
yeah,
it's gotten better for sure. I
yeah.
mean, if you look at it, there's so many festivals. I actually got the opportunity. This was me and Gracie York. We played Wild West Fest together this year. We played like an acoustic show together.
Was that in
And
San Angelo? Is that what that was?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And it was like it was a Monday night acoustic show that we got to play. Well, the owner of the festival, literally younger than me. Like he is young. He's had this
Really?
festival for several years, but he's super cool. Um, and this was in all fun. This was not in any, I mean, it was serious, but it was all, we were just hanging out with him after that night. He ended up staying for the entire show, and everybody was like, he does not stay and watch everybody's full show. Like he's usually so busy, blah, blah, blah. Well, we just got to hanging out with him that night. And one of the owners of a venue in San Angelo, she was there with us as well. And he was introducing us to her. And she made a passing comment to him about how he didn't have a female on the main stage this year at all, this past year. And me and Gracie, of course, we just latched onto that. And we all night long, we were just like, that's unacceptable. Like, you
Yeah.
cannot have it, But we later on in the night, we were like, okay, in all seriousness, like, yeah, it does suck. But we know there's like, this was something I actually learned during that conversation of like bigger artists, I'm still learning every day, but like bigger artists having an approved list of artists that they can have on festivals. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so it was like, well, sometimes I can't put, and if that artist doesn't, you know how it is. But, there's like situations like that where I get to talk to people and I'm like, that's not cool. Like, don't do that. Like, you need females on your main stage. Like, don't exclude just because of what you listen to. Like, yes, that might not be what you listen to, but also at the end of the day, you're selling a festival that like other people are coming to. So anyways,
Right.
I think it opened his eyes a little bit though. Like when we said it about 25 times that night. He's cool though. He's really cool.
Yeah. There, and there's a fine line between saying something and I was talking to Bree on this podcast about the exact same thing. And there's a fine line about saying something to somebody in the industry about the struggle of being a female, and then them writing you off because they don't understand your point of view of it. And then there's, you explaining something and then being like, okay, cool. Yeah, I understand that. You can say things like that. And if somebody else brings it up to him, it's good that you just like probably nagged him about it, or you could be like Autumn Raglan and get yourself kicked off of LJT for posting about the whole. I don't know if you remember that from like 3 years ago. Yeah. And so, yeah, should do it again. that's just Autumn. But it's just, I don't know. I think we made some progress, and I'd like to see it keep going. And I was just kind of curious on, on your stance of it. Do you have any advice for females in the industry that are coming up, that are looking to do what you're doing? Do you have any advice for any other females?
I think my biggest thing is you just got to do it. It sucks at times. And yeah, there's going to be challenges. I mean, even challenges outside of like business side of it, all the way down to venues not having a space for you to get ready in. Like, I have full face of makeup and hair that I got to do before shows, and you don't have like.
Yeah, I've seen your Instagram. Your hair looks crazy cool, like in a good way.
No, it does. It's always a freaking afro. Yeah. But anyways, but like venues that don't have green rooms, like I do get it, like sometimes, but like at the end of the day, it's like, well, where do you expect me? Because I can't just go out to my trailer and get dressed like the rest of the guys. Mm-hmm. Like it's literally as simple as that, and that just kind of, I guess, translate into the rest of the. But you just have to do it. There's going to be bad parts of it, and just keep your head down and show what you have to offer. And I promise you, at some point, somebody, if you're just working your ass off, somebody's going to recognize that, and they're going to be like, I like what you have going. And, me personally, like, I don't necessarily believe in keeping your mouth shut. My album, I wrote a song after Roe versus Wade. happen, and it's called War on Women, and I think we're gonna put it on the album, and I'm so excited
Are
because
you allowed to send me the demo? Yeah, you guys have it
I
done, or
don't
is
have
it?
it yet. I
Okay,
only have, I'll send you, I have a like
I want to hear
just
that.
voice memo that I made of like recording the song, but I'll send it to you.
No,
But
send that to me. Send that to me. That'd be cool. I want to hear it. Yeah.
I'll send that to you. But
Okay.
I'm so excited. I've never played this song for really anybody. I'm so excited though, because I really have never made a stance on anything ever,
Mhm.
because from the beginning I kind of was like, well, and I don't even really think I'm at the point where I can start making like stances that I'm going to be like, oh, well, they're not going to leave me because they're fan. Like, I still think people will
Mhm.
be like, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you said that. And I'm fine with that. I, I'm excited to, I guess, voice an opinion of
Yeah.
mine,
No,
but
and you know what? And first of all, fuck yeah. And second of all, sometimes you lose people because you will, it's just part of the industry because like you decide to say something um that people don't like, But
I don't want them as a fan anyways, if that's what they really
exactly, that's
want.
what I'm saying. Autumn just came out with a song and on our new record, something she wrote. She played it at the Texas Music Pickers thing like fucking 10 years ago, whenever whenever that was. And so she, and that was one of the ones she played. And she's probably like turned off some people by it because it's like a kind of a female anthem, so to
I think
speak.
I
But
remember this song. Yes, I know
yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah, it's called Throw My Life Away. Go listen to it. But I think that the people that ended up liking that song, I think that she gained just as many fans as she would lose. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But kind of making a stance for something in music. I feel like, you have a platform, and some people, want to just make party music and rock and fuck yeah, if that's what you're trying to. People need that too. People don't need to always be, political and people just want to
Yeah.
like have feel good music, and that's cool, and not everybody has to have a political stance on everything. But I was just kind of curious on your viewpoint
Yeah,
on all
sorry, I
that.
kind of, that was a soapbox, but
Okay, so on your new album, and I'm just curious, and this is probably a conversation we probably should have had off the record, but are y'all cutting that We Can't Be Friends?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
is it
are.
done?
No. Every time I got to thinking about this earlier, every time that we sit down to work on it, we're just like, this song is too good for us to not make this perfect. And
Mhm.
I think we like stress ourselves out on it each time. So we'll work on it for a couple hours and then we'll stop and then
Yeah,
we'll come back to it. I go back in Wednesday, so I might actually be like, hey, let's start on this song that day because
yeah.
I
I just
want
want
to
to,
finish
man.
it.
I'm excited to see what you guys do with it, just because it was a Autumn and Hank turned it into like a pop song because it wasn't something that we were gonna do like as Raglan and I don't know. It was like a year. Was that like a year ago or something?
To be
I was
honest, we
like,
love the way it sounds. That's the biggest, like, we're trying not to copy it exactly, but
mhm,
like, we love it in the form that it is
right,
in. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I don't,
yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you guys are gonna do with it because like after Autumn wrote that and showed it to me, I was like, Holly would fucking kill this song, dude. So I'm like,
thank you.
yeah. So
Thank
stoked.
you guys so much for allowing me to cut that song because I believe in that so much. Like,
Yeah,
it's one of the best songs I've heard in the last several years, like, legitimately. And I'm not saying that just to like blow smoke up y'all's ass. Like, it's great. It's
yeah,
so good.
no, yeah. Autumn's a crazy writer, man. See, I think at the end of the day, everybody's career boils down to one thing, I think Autumn's is just being a writer. You know what I mean? I think, I think you too. I think you're also a awesome performer too, but hers is just writing. She could just be a songwriter and never start the car and leave the house again. She'd probably do that, But
Yeah.
there's more
Like,
money in performing. Yeah. Okay, so we got a few minutes left. What is some advice that you have for any upcoming musician at all that is trying to get to the point where you're at?
write as much as possible, write with anybody that you can. Uh, at the end of the day, I do think it comes down to good songs. Yeah, your live show definitely, but that's another step of it. But you got to have the songs first, and if you don't have them, find friends that do, I
Okay.
guess, and record them. But
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I think that's really where it starts for me, and but also something that I have struggled with. Find your people and trust in your people, but don't be too trusting of new people. I don't know how to say that right.
No, that's
but
fair.
like,
That's fair. Yeah,
you
don't
know,
be
like,
so quick to give away your career to people that you don't really like have.
you know, kind of going back to what like I'm still doing a lot of stuff myself. Like, work on it yourself. Don't just be like, well, I just need to find a manager. I need to find booking, whatever. Because like,
Right.
again, of what you said, like, of you're not gonna know how to do it.
Exactly.
I firmly believe in, like, you need to know how to do everything yourself
Right.
by the time you get to the top, so you can be still making the decisions at the end of the day. Like, yeah, there's gonna be people doing it.
Right. Yeah. Once we hired a tour manager, it like when if it's being done right or not, and if your photographs look shitty if you learn how to do photography, and you just I think I'm glad you agree. I know the people that listen to this podcast are probably not, they can't see the look on your face whenever I said that, but no, I think we both agreed like highly on
Oh, yeah.
you need to just do it all yourself. I mean, what if you fuck up, then
You learn.
yeah. Oh, exactly. And you know what's funny is what you said earlier is like, I think every 6 months, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but every 6 months Raglan starts over in year one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we're like, man, we were, and I said it for years. I was like, we're fine. I feel like we're finally doing this right. And then, and then 6 months will go by, and we set a whole new group of boundaries and ground rules, and then I'm like, all right, we're doing it right. And then 6 months later, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, we're finally doing it right. So just
I agree.
Don't be afraid to evolve. I think is a big one.
Don't be afraid to change. You got to be able to change and like adapt to situations, especially just being on the road in general. Like, you have to be able to just go with the flow, for sure.
Yeah. I know I asked you for your thoughts on it, and then I just gave some of mine, but
Oh no, I appreciate it. It's all the same. I mean, I think we agree on that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to have met you back in the day, back in the early 2019 days or 2018, wherever that was. But no, I'm stoked to see what all you got going on, and we need to write. I feel like we need to get together and write sometime. You and
I'm
all.
down. I'm y'all's way, so I definitely I'm still kind of trying to figure out this album. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, all right. Well, hey, holler whenever you come back around. So
all right, sounds good. I will. Thank you so much.
All right. I'll see you later.